What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about crypto and the different ways to buy it and sell it. So when it comes to crypto and you buy it, you basically have two options. You can leave it on the centralized exchange, or you can move it into something called self-custody. So first, let's talk about centralized exchanges and what those are, and then go into basically the positives and negatives of each, and then we'll also talk about self-custody. So what are centralized exchanges? So think of websites like Coinbase, Binance, crypto.com. These are all reputable exchanges that you can use. Coinbase is probably the most reputable because it's a company in the US that's public. They have their own stock. But depending where you are in the world, it might not be available. Binance is not available in Canada anymore. So depending on where you are, just do your research when you're dealing with centralized exchanges. So couple things to keep in mind. Anything you do on a centralized exchange, everything is tracked, right? Each exchange has different government rules and regulations that they have to adhere by. So, for example, KYC, which stands for Know Your Customer, they have to ask you for your name, phone number, email address. You have to give them a copy of your ID, your government issued ID. And then there's different anti-money laundering laws that they have to adhere by. So let's say you're doing a lot of volume, your account could get locked, and then they'll contact you and say, hey, where did you get this money from? Or you basically have to give them more information. So all these things come with centralized exchanges. There's a lot of benefits, but there is those negatives as well. So like I mentioned, I'm from Canada. So one of the things that's in Canada is you can only buy $30,000 of crypto a year. There is some coins that don't count towards the limit, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. I think Bitcoin Cash is there for some reason. I don't know who uses that. But those are not counted towards the limit, but you are limited to only $30,000 a year, which is ridiculous. I don't know why. So basically, every country is going to have different rules and regulations, but that's one of them for me. So you can't buy more than 30K a year. It resets after 12 months. So different countries are going to have different regulations, so do your own research. But let's talk about some of the benefits as well. So when you have your money in a centralized exchange, let's say you lose your password, you can just reset your password. You'll get an email to reset it, just a regular way of resetting a password on like any other website. But in self-custody, if you lose your password, you basically lose all your money, right? Then there's other things like if you're, let's say you're not dealing with a reputable exchange, you're dealing with a different exchange and it goes out of business, you might lose all your money, right? So in Canada, there was one called Quadriga CX that went out of business. I don't think the guy died, but more on that in a different video. Then you have the most popular one recently is FTX with Sam Bankman-Fried. People thought they were too big to fail, but look where we are now. It failed. Mt. Gox was probably the most famous one for the amount of bitcoins, which are worth like billions now, that got hacked out. But basically, keep in mind, if you have your money on centralized exchanges, your account could get locked for whatever reason, or the company goes out of business for whatever reason, and you can lose all your money. Another thing that happens on a daily basis are account hacks. So let's say someone gets access to your Coinbase account, they can log in and take all your money. There's something called a SIM swap hack. Basically, usually you get a two-step authentication. They'll send a code to your phone number. But let's say someone hijacks your phone number, they're the ones that are going to get that code. So they can use that to log into your account and withdraw everything. So yeah, these are the different things for centralized exchanges. Let's talk about self-custody. So self-custody, all this means is that it's in your own private wallet, and you're in charge of the custody. So like centralized exchanges, like I said, you can reset the password, but for self-custody, if you lose your password, you basically lose all your money, right? So there's more risk of loss. So there's no one to contact, there's no support, and there's no way to reset your password. When you set up a self-custody wallet, it's going to give you 12 words. It's called a seed phrase, and those 12 words basically are going to be used to access your account. Anyone with those 12 words will basically have money access to your money, right? One positive is it's not tied to your identity, right? So let's say you have money in a random wallet, it's not tied to your ID or your address, your name. Nobody knows who owns that money. So some people think that's shady, but how is that any different than having cash at home or having gold? It's not tied to your identity, but it's literally the same thing. One positive about self custody is you can now deal with decentralized exchanges. So usually the way it works with centralized exchanges, you send them money, you're trading in your wallet, and it stays on that centralized exchange. With decentralized exchanges, let's say you buy a coin, it's and you swap one coin for another coin, is basically coming back into your wallet. It's in your own control, right? So the most popular decentralized exchanges are Uniswap and Jupiter. Uniswap is for Ethereum based tokens. Jupiter is more for Solana based tokens. So we'll get more into that in a different video. So like I said, with self-custody, it's not tied to your identity. There's more risk of loss, but there's also more token options, right? So when a new coin just comes out, it's going to get listed on a decentralized exchange. And if it becomes popular, then it'll get added to a centralized exchange like Coinbase or Binance, right? So there is more scam tokens as well, or there's tokens that might not necessarily be a scam, but they don't go up in value. The hype dies down or whatever reason, they go down in value. So it's way more riskier as well. But keep in mind, with more risk, there's more reward. So let's say you buy a token on these decentralized exchanges, it goes up, let's say 10x, 100x, sometimes even 1000x before it's added to a decentralized exchange. So one example I'll give you is anyone can add any coin to these decentralized exchanges. So let's say you think you're buying the real coin, but you're actually buying a scam token that's not worth anything, right? So do your own research. There's way more risk in decentralized exchanges, but there's also the most room for profits as well. So cold wallet, what does cold wallet mean? So cold wallet basically is a wallet that's not connected to the internet. It's also known as hardware wallets. The most popular one is called Ledger Nano. Ledger Nano S is what I would recommend to most. There's also a Ledger Nano X, which has Bluetooth. And the basically one of the positives or one of the benefits of the Bluetooth one is you can use that with different apps on your phone. So it's like an extra step that you have to approve on your phone in order to send out that crypto. But more on that later. Ledger Nano is probably the most popular one. Trezor is really good because it's open source. Then we have Tangem, and there's a bunch of other ones as well, depending on your budget or depending on what your needs are. I would definitely recommend getting a hardware wallet or a cold wallet. Once you have over, let's say you have over 5K or 10K worth of crypto, it makes sense to put it on Ledger Nano. Ledger Nano is about $100 right now. It's not too expensive, but yeah, different wallets will cost you more. So next thing I want to talk about is Bitcoin ATMs. Now, there is positives and negatives of Bitcoin ATMs. One of the positives is you don't have to give ID or anything like that. Some of the negatives are the fees are really high. Um, but yeah, so the way it works, depending on who the ATM operator is, the fees will differ. So some fees will be so let's say right now Bitcoin's sitting at 100,000. When you go to ATM, it might say 110,000 is the price. So that's basically the spread. And then they're also going to charge you a transaction fee on top of that in order to cover the cost of sending it to your wallet. So keep in mind, it could be great, but the fees are usually really high because you're dealing with cash. Another option, instead of a Bitcoin ATM or P2P websites, the most popular one was localbitcoins.com, which is now shut down. I'm not sure what the exact reason is, but I think something to do with KYC or government regulations force them to shut it down. So you have different options that popped up that are similar to local Bitcoins. But again, it depends on where you are in the world, and different websites will have different areas that they cover. Another option is cash. No matter where you are in the world, you can always buy and sell crypto in cash. So that way it's not tied to your wallet as well. Last thing I want to touch upon is when you want to, let's say you made a lot of money in crypto and you want to withdraw to your local currency, that will come back to centralized exchanges. That will probably be the most easiest way, but then again, it's tied to your name and it is tracked and all that. So there is some positives and negatives to that. So that's it for this video. Hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions specifically on anything that I talked about, hit me up in the comments. And make sure you join our school community. That's skool.com/ETH. If you're a newbie to crypto, or if you want to be in a community with like-minded individuals, join up. It's free. That's it for this video. Take care.